Probably one of the first things that comes to my mind is about my mom giving her heart to the Lord. She had an uncle by the name of Fletcher Austin, if I'm not mistaken about the name. I know it was one of the Austins, and I think it was her uncle. They were in a revival. I believe it may have been a Methodist revival, but I'm not positive on that for sure. But it was a revival, and my mom said that she wanted to give her heart to the Lord, but she was afraid to go up and do that. So Uncle Fletcher Austin walked her to the altar that night, and she gave her heart to the Lord. And my mom and dad have lived for the Lord most of my life. My mom told a story that one of the things that caused my dad to give his heart to God, we lived out east of Lead Hill in the country on a farm, and it was time to go get the cows, and there was either a snow on the ground or it had been raining, one of the two. And my dad had been out before we had gone and left tracks and was going along, and my mom said I was taking big steps, and she said, "Charles, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm walking in my dad's footsteps." So she told my dad this story. My dad, according to her story, was bad about drinking, was not a Christian at that time. And so she said she told my dad that story, and it shook him up. Dad was good about taking Mom to church, and they went in the wagon back in those days. And she would said that he would take her, and then he'd go off and do his thing till church was over, and he'd come back. And said time or two he came back not in very good shape to have to drive a team home to take the family home. Yeah. But there was a revival that came to the Church of God. I think one of the ministers may have been Frank Ashley. Right. Not positive on who else might have been helping, but they said they were getting ready for a baptizing, and they went down to the creek below the bridge. I think that's called Sugarloaf. And Dad and some more of the guys taking their teams and went down there and dug a hole in the creek so they could have this baptizing. And before that revival was over, my dad made his way to the altar. Back in those days, they were pretty strong about a man who used tobacco. Yes. And really taught that he couldn't give his heart to the Lord without getting rid of his tobacco. And my dad was a smoker. So my dad said he went to the altar one night and didn't get anywhere. And Uncle Roy Austin, one of our family members, was there, and my dad went to him the next night and said, "Roy, if you'll go to the altar with me, I'm going back tonight. I'm going to get what I want." And he said he took his tobacco and his pipe or whatever and laid it on the altar and said, "Lord, there it is." Gave his heart to the Lord. But Dad was also baptized in that same revival meeting, if I'm telling it like I think it was made so.